The scene opens this evening um, in New Sarum, in the far northern edge of downtown, where Stefan Braunfiedler lives. Um, he can, as usual, um, hear some of the activity from going on from below in the in Pickett's Diner, the the small family family oriented cafe restaurant that he lives above, and enjoying whatever little bits of life that he tends to hear. Not so much through the floors, but more flooding out as the doors are open this evening to the diner. It's warming up a little bit. It's not raining. Lucky break, but it's still overcast. Still a bit of a breeze, but nicer than the winter. And he sits back at his primary workbench, one of two that he's got, and finishes a sketch um, for an ashtray. And he contemplates some of the materials that he had recently gained from um, his deal, still standing deal with Sophia de Salers. Um, Taking in the various qualities of the of the material itself, from the mother of pearl, um, the jade, the crystal, um, and lapis, and really, making an effort to really like take in the various qualities, thinking about the type of stone that he's going to use, and realizing he's got to he's got to go out. Not many options at this time of night. Wait. Maybe there is. His Stefan's thoughts begin to trail off a bit. Um, though he's feeling a lot more level than than he did before, um, he still feels uneasy as his mind tries to follow back to some earlier events and the state in which he woke up this evening. Not the worst, but he always hopes for better. He hopes to never have any lingering visions of the nightmares. The, the eyes staring at him from the end of the alleyway. The black feathered bird seems to follow and congregate from time to time. Um, the recent disturbing afterthought from when he had his meeting a few days, perhaps even a week ago. Hasn't been that long, he thinks. With Oleg Ivanov. Uh, Still confused, still very, very conflicted about events at that meeting, trying to console himself with the fact that he retained the knowledge, the information that he gained in that meeting, and trying to take some comfort, find some comfort in the fact that he did complete that part of his goal. He was able to relay information to Thomas, but still that uneasy feeling, that clear memory. Nothing has been clear in his head since his embrace 10 years ago. Nothing. And then this. Perhaps at some point, Gideon, maybe even Celine, will be able to help me. Oh, well. Is that this now? Is that this now? Or is that this later? It's just this now. And he tries to really, really focus in on the. It's not the best sketch ever, but he tries to focus in on that, and he thinks, Mozart pearl. Yes, we'll do some inlay in it, and I think, yes, the mask. Yes, this will work. He gets up from his workbench and grabs the hooded sweatshirt that he's gotten all too accustomed to. It's kind of growing on him. It's odd. It's strange. It's not something that he would have ever imagined. But he grabs that. He grabs some of his tools, his Leatherman, his multi-tool, as well as some, let's see, what is it? Rock hammer, chisels, things like that. He puts it into a small bag that he can carry, like a tool bag. Gathers them up, throws a rock blanket in there as well, and he heads out. He locks the door, as always, behind him, and dials a number to a cab company. Within, say, 10 minutes, actually, because there was a cab, like, literally around the block when he made his call. 10 minutes, he, the cab arrives, he gets in, tells the cabbie, Shell Beach, please, and I will need some meter running when I arrive. Cab driver nods at him and doesn't really smile, just kind of matter of fact nods. No other real acknowledgement other than the transaction. That's it. Some time passes and the cab arrives at Shell Beach. Stefan gets out. He remembers a bit of a rocky outcropping. If he's remembering correctly, granite, and he heads very well, as quickly as he can, very matter of factly, to the rocky outcropping at this end of the beach. Um, Northern end still very much within New Sarum limits, and takes a bit of a look. Actually going to make a perception and science. Oof. The rocky outcropping that he was looking at wasn't exactly as he remembered. He knows he's seen something similar. He's seen something that fit the description before, but that was a smaller outcropping. It was literally jutting out through the sand, water washing around it whenever the tide comes in, and he continues down the beach a little bit more. There's a bigger outcropping. And yes, it was this. It was this fun. This is fair. Yes, such beautiful granite. Not as typical as what most people would think. This tends to have at points a hint of green, and kind of smiling to himself, nodding at the stone, giving his approval to the material that is his medium. He proceeds to put his tool back down, and he starts chipping away a bit. 10 pounds. 10 pounds should do. He proceeds to kind of try to carve out a 10-pound chunk. So make his crafts and intelligence. So 3 successes total. Okay. It takes him some time. I mean, after all, he's hammering and chiseling through, into stone. But he finds an end piece, so he doesn't have to actually go into it and make a hollow. He finds a nice chunk of this, not perfectly square, not cubical, but a good piece. Kind of juts out slightly squarish, but a little round jut at the very end. It's almost like the tip of someone's nose or something. And he continues away, keeping in mind that he's got a cab waiting, so he's got to work quick. And yes, he's definitely motivated. He's definitely focused. Ooh. Actually, no, that was 2 successes on both the 2 successes in the last 2 rolls. I forgot. I'm 1 dice down. So, yeah, it takes him about 30 minutes to really carefully gather the material, but eventually he kind of drops one of his tools, catches the 10-pound chunk of granite, this wonderful greenish hue through it. Very, very nice green, though. Very deep, very vibrant, very bright. And he kind of sets it down, picking up the tool that he dropped, placing it back, all of them back into his bag. He gathers up the stone and the tools, closing the bag, of course, and begins to head back up the beach to where the cab is waiting. Kind of trying to put a little bit of a hurry into it. Yeah, he manages to keep his footing on the beach, not tripping, especially with his heavy load in his hands. So, takes him about as long to get back up as it did down, but eventually makes it back to the cab. Cab is still waited, is still has was waited for him, um, and he gets back into it. Oh, thank you for waiting for me. I do very much apologize for keeping you. Um, the cab driver looks at him. Oh no, well, it's not a problem, buddy. Not a problem. Oh, interesting. What are you gonna do with the rock? It's for a sculpting project of mine. Oh, all right. That's fair enough. Where to now? Uh, Pickett's Diner, please. All right, will do. Thank you. All right. The cab gets going, and you know, um, about 20, 30 minutes, probably about 30 minutes, crossing town and all that, getting through the bridges, um, or over the bridges. Eventually, the cab makes it, back into downtown and pulls up the far northern edge again, in front of Pickett's Diner. Stefan pulls out some money. That'll be 38.40. Pulls out 45 and says, "Keeps the change. Thank you." And the cab driver takes the money, nods at him. Not the best tip, but it's something extra. He smiles. He's happy for that. You have a good evening. Enjoy your sculpting. Stefan gets out with his materials, with his tools, and nods at the driver, smiling, and heads back up to his apartment. Um, Opening the door. When he gets inside, he throws the uh, three slide bolts that are inside that are built inside the door. He throws them closed. Once the door is closed, and unlocks it and begins working. Um, Takes a moment and he looks at the granite, kind of runs his hand over it, and takes in the various contours, the feel of the stone. Very, very rough. Yes. Except for where he carved it off of the larger chunk. And then he kind of pulls a little bit of mother of pearl close to him. Mm. Yes, yes. He he sets his tool bag aside, and he pulls out some of his smaller sculpting tools, and he begins to get to work on making a bowl shape out of it. Um, let's see. Dexterity and crafts. 2 successes on that. So he begins by cleaning up the chunk, taking some of the odd bits off, and starting the bowl shape a bit, leaving a little excess on the base for now. See where it goes, but he starts to see the rough shape of the bowl, similar to what he had drawn. He's going for the shape of a manhole cover, textured on the inside of the bowl and on the outside, but a manhole cover that has, perhaps it looks as though it's been, as if the sides have been pulled up to make a bowl out of a manhole cover. And we realize this is going to be a cigarette ashtray, so he keeps in mind to put 3 notches on the edge. And it takes him a good, hour or two to be able to start to form the basic shape, to eventually carve off separate some of the excess on the bottom so that he can make the bowl, or make it a rounded bowl with only about 3 little feet to hold it up and to steady it, carved, just to get that basic shape. A good hour and a half, maybe 2. And he continues to try to get that texture, that shape, and to make the right inset for the pieces, to form that classic theater mask into the center of the ashtray, at least the size of a $50. So 2, 3 successes total on that on my extended roll for this. 2.5 hours. He's making some progress on this simple project. It's actually turning out to be a little more complex than he originally thought. But he kind of takes a moment, sets his tools down, and realizes, I know what. And he walks over to his stereo that he has his record player sitting on top of, and turns it to decently low volume, just loud enough to hear, not too loud enough to be distracting, to that station that he had heard that one song that really hit home, really actually struck a chord with him. Turns to that station again and keeps it a bit low. Walks back over to his bench and just kind of sits down, takes a moment, taking in the sound of the music, the feel of the stone as his hand runs over, the project that he's working on. Tries to take in the whole atmosphere of this apartment, this studio that he lives in, or this studio that he lives in. Opens his eyes, looks back around, looks at the piece, and Another, hour and a half passes. Um, into his work, so he's been at this for a good 5 hours, um, and just takes a moment, and then yes, resumes. Okay, a total of 5 successes on this extended roll. It's not turning out, as nice as he would have hoped, but he's still very pleased. It's still a good piece of work. It's his work after all. Um, and continuing this work throughout the night. You know, just really focusing, really um, trying to make it the best he can. He does eventually get the actual shape, the actual feet on the bottom of this curved over bowl shaped manhole cover. He does manage to carve out the inset mask so that he can do an inlay with mother of pearl on one side. The other half is the other half of the mask is in relief, um, opposite the mother of pearl inlay. Um, so it's a 3 dimension. It's a depth difference as well as um, a filled versus absence of material. Um, and we'll make a couple more rolls. Okay. As Stefan continues, hard in his work, he works until dawn, until he can barely keep his eyes open, and that's when he sets his tools down and walks over to his bed in the far right hand corner, and just flops down and goes to sleep.